They were sending teams out to kill their own because they'd rather kill them than let them desert. Saddam Hussein had lit up all the oil fires, if you remember. I was in a Huey and I had, two door gunners and a co-pilot, and the soot was so bad. And then I walk over and I see these dogs over there and they start growling as I got closer, pull my weapon out and I'm looking at them. And sure enough, they're digging up dead Iraqis. During the artillery barrage, there was the largest artillery barrage in military history. We were bombing them so bad, the B-52s and stuff. So they were coming over at night in droves. They were sending teams out to kill their own because they'd rather kill them than let them desert. So we caught a bunch. We had fences, set up with all the guys that we captured. So we were flying a lot of screen lines and a lot of, we ended up over by the, what's it called? I flew over where the oil, where they lit up all the trenches with oil. Like thinking back, it was so primitive, They're stringing up concertina wire and burning. They were still digging ditches and triangles, and filling with oil and burning them. Like, that's going to stop us, and they had trench warfare, and we just bulldozed over them, bulldozed them alive.
Wow.
The engineers did, yeah. And so then we get into Iraq, and it was over pretty quickly. But I remember they told us, we were right on the border. And during the artillery barrage, there was the largest artillery barrage in military history. And I forget how many one MLRS, remember that, the multiple launch rocket system? One of those will clear a football field and put a bomblet every 12 inches.
Wow.
And they think they had 100 of them go off. And so we're watching it. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. We all got up to watch it. It was like 4th of July, And so it was just, whoom, whoom, whoom. It was unbelievable, the destruction. And after a while, we were like, damn, Even now, I was sitting watching the fireworks the other day, and everybody's, smoking and joking, having a good time, and I just could still picture that, that artillery barrage. It just kind of stuck with me. And so that was kind of, and then we went in and did the invasion and had some experiences there. And
what kind of experiences?
I'll give you spiritual, or you want I'll give you
both.
Well, before we would go, and look, if I'm a pilot, when I feet on the ground, I'm nervous. To me, it's big sky, little bullet. Put me in the air, and I'm happy. I can get out of the way, And so I would always find a reason, So I went to the chaplain. Hey, those poor guys up in the Bradleys, they need Catholic Mass. Let's go. Let's say Mass for them. Let's get permission from the colonel, and I'll fly you up there. So I would fly him. I was in a Huey at the time. I'd fly him up, and they would pull back. The Catholic soldiers would fly back, or the troopers would drive back, and he would have Mass for all them. And he was a good guy. And right before I went over, it's funny, talk about confession. There was a Catholic chaplain that lived in the same apartment complex, and I was just kind of there temporarily as I was getting ready to deploy. And he was gay, and he kind of told me he was gay. I was like, thanks, Father, for telling me that, You know what I mean? I was like, I hope that was cathartic for you, but it was really weird for me, okay? So, and then he's like, can you go to confession? I'm like, I'm not going to confession, not to you, I'm sorry. And so I didn't go, and I was like, I don't need to go to confession. That was my mindset. I'm like, I'm not going to go. So we're flying in, and I was flying this chaplain, the Catholic chaplain, brigade chaplain, every Sunday, and they told us right before the artillery, they said, look, everybody here, make peace with the Lord, because they expected like 75% casualties, what they told us. They didn't know. They were supposed to use chemical warfare against us, all this other stuff. So, and I remember flying missions, going back to the rear, picking up stuff, maintenance stuff, whatever. And I saw when they brought in just Connex filled with body bags, because they were ready. Because they didn't know. They didn't know that this second world's largest army was just going to collapse. We just pounded them. B-52 strikes and the artillery. There was just very little left by the time we got there. Was we ran up against they had two divisions that had T-72s, but the rest were T-62s. They were trash, and we were just killing them, And so we would by the time we got in, it was just destruction. It was just shit everywhere, you know, destroyed aircraft, blown up tanks. We had playing cards, you know, with all, you guys probably did too, but playing cards with anti-aircraft and different tanks so we could identify them, you know. So you're playing cards and you're looking at, this was a Zeus, we call it the Zeus. I think it was the Zeus. It was an anti-aircraft 4-barrel. He would crank himself around, you know, and either an Apache or an A-10 hit it. It might have been a main tank round, but all was left, the barrels were just crumpled like a pretzel. And all thing left on this guy was his right arm, which is hanging there, this charred arm. And that was kind of I had to see it every day because that was kind of my path. We didn't have GPS, you know, we didn't have anything. We just had to fly kind of by dead reckoning and just kind of winging a prayer. And so that was one of our spots. When you see, we get the old lefty over there, you're gonna turn 030 and get back to where we were. And so we're flying in that first day, and Saddam Hussein had lit up all the oil fires, if you remember. Mm-hmm. And I was in a Huey, and I had, you know, 2 door gunners and a co-pilot, and the soot was so bad, and it was raining, and the oil fires were just burning. We're just not too far away. You can kind of see them in the distance, and and about every 10 minutes we'd have to, and then we were lost. We were separated from our units. We had 2 other Hueys with us. We were crossing over. We had an Apache and 2 Hueys, and then right when we crossed the border, the Apache says, "Hey, I got something light. I got to go back," and we're like, "You." So we start just cussing this guy out. Like, dude, suck it up, man. We're flying into Iraq, you know? So we got 3 slicks and pouring down rain. About every 15 minutes, we got to stop. The crew chief's got to get out, put water on the windshield because the windshields were just black with oil soot. It's getting dark. We're running out of gas. And so I'm like, all right, guys, look, we're in the middle of Iraq. We're lost. And I'm the lead aircraft, Chalk 1 of three aircraft. I'm like, all right, guys, here's what we're going to have to do. We're going to land. So we got 5 minutes of daylight left and about 6 minutes of gas. And we're going to land, and we're going to set up a perimeter. And we're going to pull the 60s out. We're going to set up a perimeter. We're going to have 100% security, and we're just going to hunker down for the night, and we don't know what to expect. So I'm just, you know, you talk about suddenly finding prayer. You know, there's no atheists in foxholes. So as we're just flying, just praying quietly, listening to the whine, the drone, and all of a sudden as we pull up, we see some. It was too late to pull. We can't maneuver up because we had about 30 feet visibility, which means you can see about 30 feet in front of you. And so we're going about 10 feet off the deck, probably 70, 80 knots, which is as slow as you can really go, and just. You're gonna run into a Jeep if you hit a vehicle. So we see a vehicle, we're so low we have to stop and land, and we didn't know if it was enemy or not, you know. So we had to stop and get out and fight if we were going to fight. So we land, we look up, and we see that upside down V, you know, and like, oh, thank goodness. Crank it down. It's pouring down rain. Shut the aircrafts down, button them up. Everybody just disperses into the first tent they find, and I'm just like. You know, that was a close one. Wow. I roll in there, the first tent, half thinking, man, I hope this is a pub. I'm just fantasizing, man, I hope this is a pub, you know? And I walk in, and there's the brigade chaplain. Looks at me, and I look at him, and he goes, "Hey, what's up, LT?" And I said, "Hey, sir, how's it going?" He goes, "You want to go to confession?" I said, "Yeah, I'll go to confession." So I knelt down there and went to confession, and that was kind of the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah. And then later, they put us at one of those places that was cleared by the MLRS. I mean, it was eerie. It was one place. It was like I was flying, and my co-pilot, I hear him say, he said, "Hey, LT, what's going on?" I look around. I'm like, "What?" "Nothing." He goes, "You're hovering." And I realized I was about 100 feet, and I was just hovering, and it was like I was hovering on top of the world's giant golf ball. I mean, it was just a bomblet of an MLRS every 12 or 18 inches of just pure destruction. And so we set up camp at an old air base that we had bombed, and there was, we would land and the dogs would come over, you know, whenever I read the Psalms and the dogs, you know, and the Psalms talk about the dogs of war, they lick up the foes, you know, the punishment of Jezebel. If you read that story, we read that in session. It's powerful. It brings back a lot of memories. Her body is thrown from the second floor, and dogs lick up her. You know, if you read the story of how Jezebel, the evil, wicked queen. Anyway, so we set up a combat outpost up there. Got a perimeter set up, and we're just waiting. We're about a mile or so, I think, from the highway of death. And there's dogs everywhere, man. And these things are like half jackals. They're not like Rover back home, you know. And there were some guys that take the puppies. I remember one guy. He's dead now. He was killed he went back as an Apache guy in 2016 and crashed in Iraq. And he was, I never forget, he was holding this puppy, man, like just holding on to home, you know? And the other guys are getting on him like, hey man, you guys, those things are wild. Don't do that. They're eating the dead bodies out there. Like, shut up. No, they're not. And we would land, we would crank up every morning and go fly. And there was one dog, there were 3 of them that would hang around our aircraft because, you know, crew chiefs and the guys always throw them stuff. And one of them, he would be there sleeping, and it wasn't until we got the full crank that he'd get up. And we finally realized that he was deaf. He was shell shocked from all the artillery. So this dog, you know, once he felt the rotor wash, it would wake him up. So I went for a walk one day, and I just not, you know, not for a walk. I just cleared my head a little bit and just praying the rosary. And then I walk over and I see these dogs over there, and they start growling as I got closer, you know. It's like, pull my weapon out and looking at them, and sure enough, they're digging up dead Iraqis. We found out later that they had bulldozed. The engineers had dug big pits and just bulldozed a lot of dead bodies from Highway of Death to clear it out.
Jeez.
Yeah. So brings new perspective on the dogs of war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.